Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Crypto Economics channel, where we work on your knowledge regarding the investing in the crypto industry. Now, today we're going to be working on a special project called LayerZero ZRO, is the name of the coin, as a part of our playlist where we break down crypto projects in, I would say, structurized analysis to understand the project better and to have a basic knowledge of what the project does in the crypto industry. Now, for those that don't know our channel, you can find it on YouTube as Crypto Economics, where we break down, I would say, very sophisticated and advanced topics into basic understanding for anybody that wants to start investing in crypto industry. Now, as you can see, we have several different spheres that we are trying to develop knowledge for the people that follow our channel, like the analysis of crypto coins, the part of this playlist that we're currently working on, fundamental analysis, where we go into economics, geopolitics, and everything you need to know about the macroeconomic sphere in the world and how that is connected to the investing in the crypto industry, and technical analysis course, where we work on our technical analysis skills using the TradingView program. Now, today, as we mentioned, we're going to work on the playlist where we break down special projects into analysis that we have developed on our channel. As part of this analysis, we have so far worked on several projects that you can find on our YouTube channel. And obviously, this playlist, you can find all the previous projects that we have actually analyzed. Now, how do we analyze them? First of all, we break them down into 20 different categories, depending on what type of blockchain they represent, on how or which problem they're trying to solve. In this particular case, the LayerZero ZRO project is mainly an interoperability project, which is trying to develop a software with which capital and information can be moved from one blockchain to another. Although it is part of the smart contracts and layer 1 blockchain as well, since it has its own layer 1, that doesn't change the fact that its main application and main class would be interoperability according to us. How do we do the analysis? We actually break down the whole project into 6 groups of questions to be able to understand the way it works, to be able to understand what it's trying to solve in the blockchain industry. And that way we're going to have a whole idea of what this project is all about. Now, we always start with the first question, although we don't answer them in a numerical order, but until the end of the video, you will have all these questions answered. The first is always the application and practical use case of the coin. What is it used for? So are there other projects that are competing with it, and are there real-world applications that can replace it? Now, since you already mentioned that we're talking about interoperability project, which main focus is the transfer of capital and information around different blockchains, there is no real-world application that can replace it regarding solving this problem. When we're talking about other projects that can compete with it, as we have mentioned, the whole interoperability category would be the one that is currently competing with this project. Now, since first of all, this is considered to be a layer 0 type of project, since layer 0 is projects similar to Cosmos and Polkadot, which are actually building their own ecosystem where all the other layer 1s are built on top of the layer 0, like these 2 projects. That's why, similar to this, layer 0 is considered, first of all, to be part of this type of projects. Although similar, because layer 0 and interoperability protocols like Axelar and Wormhole are actually doing exactly the same. Over here, as you can see, the same situation, the cross-chain communication, where we're talking about transfer of informations, not capital. We can see that also layer 0 is practically on the top of the list, very close to Chainlink, as well as the layer 0s, as we mentioned, Polkadot, Cosmos, and over here we can mention Internet Computer, although that's not the main sphere that Internet Computer is currently in. But in any way, we can see that in both of these spheres, it's on top of the actual chain. Obviously, it's one of the best projects to do this type of solution in the crypto industry. But in all, we have to say that unfortunately this project is quite small. We would classify this as a micro type of project. Why? As if you've seen our previous videos, all the projects we break down depending on the size of their market cap. So the market capitalization, which is less than 1 billion, we consider them micro projects, which are quite risky since they have a very small liquidity in the market. They can very easy go to zero. Although I'm not saying that this project will go to zero, but unlike the other projects that have more liquidity, this one has the bigger chance to actually do that. And then above 1, we consider them small, up to 5 billion, 5 to 10 billion middle range, and above 10 billion, we consider them large blockchain projects. Although small, that doesn't change the fact that it has a lot of promise to it. Now, also we have mentioned that it is smart contract compatible. About this, we're going to talk a little bit later. Since the smart contract compatibility, it acquired literally 2 months ago, since this video is filmed in June 2026. So in April of 2026, LayerZero has acquired its own layer 1, which means it's smart contract compatible and currently can have its own decentralized application built on top of it. Now, we can see that the project is not very, very new, although it has been launched around the summer of 2024. So it's around 1-2 years old. That doesn't change the fact that seeding rounds about this project have started quite early from 2021. Now, as we can see in the seeding rounds, we can see that there are some very, very well-known names like Andreessen Horowitz, which is the creator of A16Z, YZ Labs, this is actually Binance Labs previously, so it means that Binance, Coinbase have been practically investing in this particular project. PayPal, OKX, we can see really, really interesting names here as, I would say, angel investors early into the project. But this also is a problem as well. Why? Because if we see these 3 rounds of practically seeding rounds, as they call them, there are $120, $130 million worth of investments that these heavy players have been investing into this project. So obviously, when the vesting schedule hit and they get their tokens, it's a big possibility that they will dump on the market. But let's not chase into it. Let's see what the vesting schedule will tell us later on. We're still talking about the application. As we have mentioned, big players are interested in this project. Besides the names that we have mentioned, Google Cloud, DTCC, this is the one of the largest financial institutions in the world, which actually transfers and settles quadrillions dollars, we're talking in the world. Then also Citadel and ARK Invest, one of the biggest names in investing, especially Citadel, currently have been backing LayerZero to create its own layer 1. As we mentioned, the layer 1 is quite new. It has come into the market around April 2026. But still, it's quite good because LayerZero has its own layer 1 project. Now we're going to turn a little bit to tokenomics, where we're going to be talking about the consensus mechanism, which is obviously part of the questions that we're answering. So if we go down to the tokenomics part, we're going to talk about what type of blockchain the ZRO LayerZero blockchain or project has. In this particular case, obviously, since we already mentioned, they do have a delegated proof of stake since a few months ago. But before, they actually had a special type of mechanism that is actually used exclusively for transferring capital and information from one blockchain to the other. So in particular case that we need to explain how it actually works, which is still part of the tokenomics. The idea of LayerZero is actually, as we mentioned, to be able to transfer capital and information from one blockchain to the other. Now we're going to explain in detail how it actually does it. It actually has a special way of, I would say, unlike any other blockchain. This is an example that comes from Chainlink. One of the main problems in the blockchain sphere currently is how to transfer capital and information from one blockchain to another. The blockchains themselves are isolated ecosystems of capital. So without interoperability, they are practically useless. in this particular case, obviously, one of the main problems currently in the crypto blockchain sphere is actually this, the connection between the blockchains. Now, a lot of projects are trying to solve this. This is a picture coming from Chainlink, but just wanted to point out the main problem that they are working on. Now, how do they actually do it? They have, I would say, two-step procedure of how they're managing to transfer capital and information from one blockchain to the other. When a transaction is issued, the relayer, these are special type of nodes that are currently available on the LayerZero project. These particular nodes are also called decentralized verifier networks, DVNs, which are currently being used as a relayer to inform the second blockchain that a transaction has been issued. Once the transaction has been issued, the relayer informs the second blockchain that they need to practically mint a coin, in this case token, from the previous blockchain. Now, the oracles, which is also Oracle as we've before mentioned, a special type of blockchain technology, is also part of the LayerZero project, are in charge of checking that the transaction is valid, that the capital is really frozen or sent from one blockchain to the other, so that the second chain, once the first chain have frozen this particular amount of coins, can mint the same type of tokens on the second blockchain. So as you can see, these two, I would say, separate mechanisms have to work in tandem to be able to first inform the second blockchain that the first one is sending particular amount of coins or informations, and Oracle to check that all these informations and capital is valid and is really frozen and minted on the second blockchain. That way, we have an interesting structure that is managing to transfer capital and information from one blockchain to the other. Now, this is in a very basic terms, explain how it functions. Obviously, on this, I would say, channel, we are not going to go that much into the deep what we need to explain. But in the same time, you need to understand that currently we're only focusing on the main usability or main problem solving that this particular blockchain is doing. Anything else, unfortunately, you will have to do it on your own to actually go deeper into the project. As we mentioned, relayers are nodes that you can actually develop as well. This is part of their white paper, which we will leave a link to in the description of the video, where you can find all the information you need about this type of nodes called relayers, or as we've mentioned before, called decentralized verifier networks, which are actually the main mechanism of transferring capital from one blockchain to the other. Now, they have already, I would say, managed to make this as an application by buying the Stargate project. Before, Stargate project was a special separate, I would say, blockchain with STG as a coin of the blockchain itself. Now they have managed to acquire it for 110 million under the LayerZero project. Once they have done that, this was a year ago, half a year ago, I would say, they are currently using the Stargate project, as we mentioned, with this mechanism to be able to send capital from one blockchain to the other. Now, let's see who is actually using or which blockchains are actually using this particular mechanism. We can see that there is a lot of currently projects that are currently using this particular solution. More than 160 blockchains currently are using LayerZero as a mechanism for transferring capital and information. Don't forget, they're not using only LayerZero, but one of the mechanisms that they're using is LayerZero. As you can see from the layer ones, Ethereum, Binance, Avalanche, Solana, Aptos, Sui, Phantom, they're all using currently or practically allowing the Stargate protocol from the LayerZero to practically transfer capital and information from one blockchain to the other. Layer 2s, Arbitrum Optimism, Base, Polygon, ZK Sync, Scroll, Linea, etc., etc. So we can see that also Hedera, Abstract, and OG, practically these are all blockchains that are currently using LayerZero for transfers of capital. As we said, more than 160 separate projects. And for you to see how easy it is, this is the Stargate.finance webpage, which is actually connected to the LayerZero, which we can actually very easy transfer or swap, as you can see, from one blockchain to another. So currently we need to practically first choose, just let me refresh the web page. For some reason it doesn't allow us the networks to be chosen. So what we need to do is just choose the network and the token, and we can practically transfer from one blockchain to the other. Just for you to actually see how it works. Over here, we can change the blockchain. As you can see, let's say we want to send something from Arbitrum. These are the tokens that are available currently on Arbitrum. We want to just send Arbitrum Ethereum to another blockchain. In this case, let's say we want to change to Base. So from Arbitrum layer 2 to Base layer 2, we want to change practically Ethereum. So we can actually deposit Ethereum, which is minted on the Arbitrum network, and we can transfer it to the Base network state from this application. As we can see, the wallets that are currently available, they're not only from Ethereum. Obviously, there is a lot of blockchains with their own wallets that are currently available, and you can be used on the LayerZero, as we can see, Stargate protocol. As we mentioned, it's that easy. And obviously, the ZRO coin is used to pay for the fee for the transfer of this type of capital from one blockchain to the other. That's the use case of the ZRO coin. Now, if we go forward, we can see that also the LayerZero has its own layer 1, as we mentioned, which is, as we previously said, directly financed by big corporations like Citadel, like DTCC, like ARK Invest, etc., etc. And obviously, the ZRO also will be used in this case to pay for the fees for the transactions that will be run on the LayerZero layer 1. Now, we're going to talk a little bit further from tokenomics when we come to the point of the actual tokenomics. In the meantime, for the layer 1, as we said, anybody that wants to make their own node, we're going to leave this practical description where you can see the specifics, where you can see everything you need to make a node on the layer 1 of LayerZero ZRO blockchain. Unlike the previous 3 layers, which are also only used for transfer of capital from one blockchain to the other, over here, these nodes are used for writing blocks on the delegated proof of stake of the LayerZero blockchain. And we can see that currently there are plenty of these nodes that are currently being used to transfer from one blockchain to the other. As you can see, these are the DVN providers, as we mentioned before, which are the relayers, which are also found on different blockchains, as you can see over here, which are helping with the transfer of capital and information from one blockchain to the other. This is how it works in a base sense and what it's trying to actually accomplish as a blockchain. We are going to stick a little bit more with the tokenization, and we are going to talk about its DAO. This LayerZero, practically blockchain, has its own decentralized autonomous organization, which is currently found on, here we go, LayerZero.Foundation, which is actually the web page, where you can find all the proposals currently for upgrading the blockchain itself. In this particular case, these are the wallets you can use to use your ZRO coins to vote. Although, keep in mind that, as you can see, the most important currently proposal is being voted until 27th, until tomorrow, which is the turn-on protocol fee, which is very important. This is the burn mechanism currently being implemented on the LayerZero. As we can see, 97% of the total amount of votes, or around 108,000 ZRO coins, are implemented in this vote to implement a burn mechanism, for which we will talk a little bit later, but keep in mind. If we continue forward, we can see something interesting about this blockchain. Unlike the other blockchains, especially the delegated proof of stake types of blockchain, the ZRO coins are all minted and already put in a vesting schedule from the first block that was done on this blockchain, which means there is no new minted ZRO coins. What does that mean? First of all, it means that there will be no inflation above 1 billion coins, which are the capped, I would say, max supply, which will be available on the markets of the ZRO coins. Why is it so important? First of all, when there is no inflation, it means that over time, it will not inflate the amount of tokens and devalue the value of the token. But in the same time, the people that are running nodes for the delegated proof of stake blockchain of this particular project will not be getting newly issued coins as a reward. What they're getting are fees that are paid in ZRO from the people that are currently doing the transaction in the blockchain, which means that the only reward that these nodes are getting are only the fees that are collected by transaction. On top of that, as we said, currently they're working on this so-called fee switch, which is the burn mechanism, but we are going to come back to it when we come to the vesting schedule of the project itself. In the meantime, as the last part of this first part of the tokenomics is what programming languages are being used to code on LayerZero. Solidity for all the blockchains that are currently on the Ethereum side, layer 1s and layer 2s. Move for blockchains like Aptos and Sui, which are second generation from Libra, the Facebook blockchain, and Rust for everything else. First of all, Solana and any other blockchain that is not part of the previous two, I would say, previous two families. And also they have special SDKs, software development kits, for people that are coding in traditional programming languages, so they can actually do programming on this blockchain as well. Now, we're going to go in a little bit in the fundamental analysis. Let's see what news we have for this project currently. Now, the first news that we have, as we mentioned before, is the news coming from Citadel and ARK Invest that this particular project will develop its own layer 1, which will be funded by Citadel, ARK Invest, Google, and the DTCC. This is the clearinghouse of a global financial market, which is extremely large financial institution. Also, recently, just a few months ago, LayerZero has implemented MoonPay in its family, in its interoperability. Now, this obviously we can see that is two-sided, the cooperation. First part is that MoonPay itself will be adding the ZRO coin to its paying services. Obviously, MoonPay is used to pay anywhere with crypto. And on the other hand, MoonPay in this particular case will be using the 160 plus blockchains that are connected to LayerZero for its own purposes to practically provide the MoonPay services to all these blockchains, which is actually very beneficial for both projects. Now, additionally, unfortunately, we have bad information, or I would say bad misuse of the blockchain itself. The Lazarus group, which is a well-known hacker group from North Korea, unfortunately have misused this blockchain, the LayerZero blockchain, to be able to siphon $292 million of Ethereum from a special protocol called Kelp. Now, unfortunately, this is like a DeFi application which is using LayerZero for transferring capital from one blockchain to another. As I have understood, because again, my forte is definitely not the programming part of the blockchain. My forte is the investing and use case of the blockchain itself. We can see that, unfortunately, the LayerZero has been misused in this particular case from the Kelp DeFi application. Instead of running a full node, they were running a single DVN node, which have actually given this particular group entrance to the LayerZero, I would say, node, which has been misused to siphon this amount of Ethereum. Unfortunately, currently, this hack is one of the top hacks, depending on how much was stolen, as we can see. If we go to the largest one, which was 625 million, this is the fourth largest hack that has been implemented in the blockchain sphere, which is quite bad for the blockchain itself. But it's only one hack so far, so obviously this is not something that can be misused again, and hopefully they will close this particular problem. We have to mention that the only interoperability protocol that has not been so far hacked, so not only, I would say two, is Axelar and Chainlink. But again, that doesn't mean that the blockchain does not have its own use. Unfortunately, only thing we can say right now that it has, I would say, a big minus, unfortunately, in the eyes of the investors because of this hack. But again, future will tell. So far, the blockchain is obviously trusted by institutions, which is a very, very big plus. Now, we're going to go shortly to technical analysis. As you can see, This project, like every other altcoin, is currently in a bear market. Obviously, this is the bear trend that we can see on top of this channel, in which this particular project is currently still being held. Until we do not reach the bottom of the Bitcoin cycle, which we are expecting to be somewhere at the end of the summer, beginning of the next autumn, I would say we will expect that the altcoins will continue to bleed, unfortunately. So we're not going to go very much into details. What we can see is that the bottom part of this channel would be the next logical support of this particular blockchain. Also, we can see that RSI is 35, stock RSI is 27, which both are either oversold or close to oversold border of 30 points. So we can see that currently this blockchain is really on the bottom of its, I would say, bear market. But again, we're not going to proclaim end of this bear market until we see that Bitcoin has done so. So continue following our program for the technical analysis until we get to the point to be able to do proper technical analysis on the Bitcoin blockchain, and in this particular case, to determine if we're close to the bottom of the actual cycle. Now, next thing that we need to discuss is the tokenomics. Now, in particular case, we're going to talk about how many coins are currently in circulation. We can see that there are 252 million, in this case, ZRO coins in circulation out of 1 billion, which means 25% of the total amount of coins are currently in circulation. Now, as we mentioned before, they do have a burning mechanism. The burn mechanism is intended, in this particular case, to give part of the fee that is being paid by anybody that is transferring any kind of capital through the Stargate or the actual layer 1 of the LayerZero blockchain. And this part of the fee that will be paid to the foundation will be used to buy back ZRO coins and burn them. Unfortunately, there is no chart in which we can see how many of these coins have been bought back and burned, but we do have a chart where we can see how many have been bought back. Now, in this particular case, we're going to take a look at this very important, I would say, chart. Now, as previously explained, obviously we can see that LayerZero has been doing buybacks even before the proposal of the partial fee, I would say, separation for the foundation. Obviously, we can see hundreds of thousands of dollars ZRO coins being bought back, and as per their explanation, they are being burned or sent to an invalid address, never to be able to be used again, which is very good if you ask me. That way, they are actually doing deflation of the amount of coins. But unfortunately, the biggest problem in this particular project is not that they are doing buybacks. That's amazing. The problem is that there are a lot of, as we can see, strategic partners and contributors, the ones that we've seen at the beginning of the video, which are currently the investors in the ICO, the initial coin offering. Where is the problem? As we can see, currently the vesting schedule from today, June 2026, up to July 2027 will be. And as we can see, currently there has been 127 million for core contributors and 161 million for strategic partners. But if we go to the end of the vesting schedule, which will be around June, July 2027, we can see that the amount that needs to be delivered is practically double from where it is right now, which means there will be a lot more coins delivered to these particular groups, which will actually be potential dump on the project itself. Now, additionally, we can see that this is confirmed as well by CoinMarketCap.com, and it's always good to double check with different applications to see that it's the same informations. Additionally, when we are talking about decentralization, which is very, very important subject, we can see that only 33.5 of the total coins in circulation are currently in the top 10 wallets. Unfortunately, CoinCarp, which is the second application we are using for this particular case, have some kind of a problem with this blockchain and does not show any information. But still, we can see that it's not very, I would say, risky, because there are projects where you can see that there is like 90% of the total amount of coins in the top 10 wallets by size. So this is not that bad at all. Since we're talking about foundation, we're talking about strategic partners, which, as we can see, have a lot of percentage of the coins themselves. This is what we have to say about the tokenomics itself. Now we're going to go to the fundamental analysis, where we're going to talk about how are institutions using this blockchain. We can see the LayerZero currently is used as a bridge, where there is around 17 million stable coins currently minted on it. But that's the only use case that there is for LayerZero currently in the tokenization sphere, or how much of the capital of the world is tokenized on this particular blockchain. Obviously, it's used only as a bridge, not as the other layer ones, which we can see there are billions and billions of dollars. So obviously, the layer ones still haven't been used for tokenization. When we're talking about the rest of, I would say, the institutional adoption of this particular project, first, obviously, we always check if there is any spot ETF applications for any of the institutions that are currently offering this coin to be bought directly from companies. Unfortunately, there are still no spot ETFs for this blockchain. Also, when we're talking about DATS, digital asset treasuries, these are companies that are directly buying particular blockchain coin. In this case, there is a category open for DATS, digital asset treasuries, for LayerZero, but still there are no companies that are currently buying this particular blockchain coin directly. When we're talking about DeFi, we can see that on the LayerZero currently there is a large amount of capital TVL, total value locked, in the DeFi protocols. Now we can see that this is not on its own applications. Mostly its capital locked in the bridges that it's providing from one blockchain to another. And if we compare this to the largest DeFi applications in the blockchain sphere, we can see that 7.3 puts this blockchain somewhere around the third place among largest DeFi blockchain applications. But again, this is a layer 1 blockchain and it's an interoperability protocol. So obviously it's not the same, but still we're talking about a very large amount of total value locked, which is always a very good thing. When we're talking about speed, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see, because obviously still there is no information. Now, if we write ZRO, we can see there is no information for this blockchain. If we write LayerZero, we can see the same. As we can see, there is no blockchain. Other important information we need to mention are, first of all, the token holders. We can see there are 24,500 token holders, which are the people that are investing in this particular project. Other important information are the active users. We can see that currently, since it's a bear market, the amount of users is quite lower. Previously, obviously, it was close to 1 million at the beginning of the project itself. But as we go in a bear market, obviously, there is around 100,000 active users, which is still, for bear market, quite a lot of active users on this particular blockchain. We can see that also there are around 300,000 to 400,000 transactions on a monthly basis, which again makes it one of the most active blockchains, as well as fees collected to around $30,000 to $50,000 on a monthly basis. But what is interesting about this blockchain is that currently there is no revenue, which means that all these fees are together, as we mentioned, delivered to all the nodes that are currently writing the transactions. As we mentioned, since there is no coins being minted for every block, as is usual for delegated proof of stake, all these fees are currently given as a reward. Unfortunately, there is no information as well, since there is a layer 1 project under LayerZero name. There is no information about any scripts being practically given to the GitHub developer portal. We can see that neither under Zero or Layer there is literally no information. As well as for active developers that are currently working on the project, there is no information under ZRO or under LayerZero. Unfortunately, this is one of the negative parts, but obviously, hopefully in the future, we will hopefully get more information on this particular subject. Additionally, this is the Explorer. This is the LayerZero scan that you can use to practically check all the informations coming on this blockchain. We are going to also mention where you can actually buy this particular coin. Now on CoinGecko, on the bottom, you can see all the exchanges that you can buy this project on. And since we can see that it's available on the biggest centralized exchanges, you can expect that this is a project that is well, I would say, dispersed around the decentralized and centralized exchanges. Additionally, we need to mention that there is also no current legal cases against this particular, I would say, blockchain. Now, these are all the answers we have given. Since we started application, we explained everything. Roadmap, unfortunately, not a lot, since obviously this is a new project which was launched more than around a year ago. So currently we didn't manage to find any active roadmap with particular steps that it should be going through. Technical analysis, unfortunately, not a lot we can do since we don't bottom on the Bitcoin blockchain. Fundamental analysis, we did everything. All the questions we have answered. Tokenomics as well, in details, everything you need to know about this blockchain and decentralizations we also mentioned in details. I hope that you enjoyed. Again, do find our channel on YouTube, Crypto Economics, and follow us for more educational content. Now, have a good day from the number one YouTube channel for macroeconomics and blockchain technology in Malta, and see you in the next video.